I know is going to get your interest peaked. Last week, President Zuma signed the Transports Law and Related Matters Amendment Act 2013 into law. Now, this act, amongst other things, enables the South African National Road Agency Limited, that's SANRAL, to collect tolls from certain roads. Transport Minister Dipuo Peters said it is a matter of weeks before the province sees the rolling out of e-tolling. Joining us to discuss the legal aspect of the e-tolling system, Tiamo Sedumedi. He is the Managing Director of MNS Attorneys. Good to have you. Welcome to Morning Live. It's good to have you here.
Thank you so much, Leah.
All right, now, with transport law being one of your areas of specialization, that's
Yes.
why we have you here in studio.
Correct.
OUTA has labeled it as irrational, unreasonable, and impractical. What is your take on this?
Look, I don't want to comment much on the correctness or otherwise of this act. Safe to state that obviously the act is there, as you correctly stated earlier on, to amend the current SANRAL Act to make provision and enable SANRAL to collect tolls via an e-tolling mechanism, and to introduce some of to empower the minister to pass some of the regulation in terms of how will the e-tolls be collected, and certain presumptions that have also been introduced in this particular Transport Laws and Related Act.
Yeah. Has government taken the best route when it comes to funding? Are there no other ways that these can be paid for?
Look, that is a moot point, Leanne. Obviously, if you listen to government side, they will tell you that they have actually looked at all the alternatives that they could have at their disposal to see as to what is the best way of recovering these e-tolls. Obviously, OUTA has a different view on the matter. They are of the view that the fuel levy would have been the most appropriate way of actually collecting e-tolls. But I think that now is before the Supreme Court of Appeal. It is for the court now to decide as to whether whether either SANRAL or OUTA is in line in terms of the objections that they have put forward.
Yeah. Well, looking at some of the valid reasons raised, such as the fact that at this point South Africa does not have affordable and reliable public transport options, what other avenues are still there for individuals and organizations opposed to e-tolling?
Unfortunately, Leanne, currently, from a legal point of view, people are all just putting all their eggs in the ruling of the SCA. You'll recall that already the North Gauteng High Court has already pronounced itself on this matter. They've actually ruled that there's nothing wrong with the route that was followed by government. So hence, you saw OUTA making an appeal in January at the SCA. So up until the SCA has pronounced itself on the matter, unfortunately, the Transport Laws and Related Matters Act is the only option that we have as a country. But I think from a legal point of view, I think one can start talking about things like boycotting e-tolls. I think from a legal point of view, this is the route that all of us we must follow.
So that's it. I mean, we don't have an option as South Africans.
At this stage, up until the court pronounced itself on the matter, I don't think there's much that can be done on the matter.
Yeah, so all South Africans at this point are urged to go out, buy your tags, pay the rolls, pay the e-tolling until further notice. Until further notice, unfortunately. Otherwise, we're breaking the law.
Otherwise, you will because if you look at the ignition, there are quite harsh penalties for non-compliance with the e-tolls. I mean, as an example, and this has always been the case. It is not an introduction by e-toll. The SANRAL Act empowers two issues. One, you can actually be criminally convicted and in prison for a period of 6 months, plus a fine. In addition to that, SANRAL has the powers to recover via institutional legal proceedings to recover all the outstanding fees that you owe to SANRAL. Yeah. So these are quite harsh mechanisms, but you must put on the record, this has nothing to do with e-toll. It has always been the case since 1998 when the SANRAL Act was passed.
Okay.
Yes.
As we say, there is that legal dispute that's happening right now between SANRAL and OUTA.
Yes.
OUTA, of course, being the opposition of Urban Tolling Alliance. What are the chances of seeing a reversal of the system if OUTA by some chance actually wins?
Obviously, yes. If the court decides, because remember, the basis of OUTA's case is that it's basically on 3 levels. One is that the minister, SANRAL and the minister must be stopped from declaring those roads as e-toll roads on the grounds, one of the issues to say there's non-compliance with environmental laws. So obviously, if the court finds in a favor of SANRAL, then yes, government won't be able to proceed with the e-toll project, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, what is, at this point, from a legal perspective, what is OUTA's case looking like? Is it looking positive, or at this point would you say not really?
It's always difficult to make a judgment on the strength or otherwise of any particular case. I mean, already if you look at it, the North Gauteng High Court has already decided in favor of government. So that is an indication that, at least at this stage, the courts have already given an indication as to where the wind is blowing. But obviously the SCA is not bound by the decisions of the North Gauteng High Court. I mean, this fight is an appeal. So at this stage, if you ever have to make a judgment, you can say so far there's one round in favor of government, in a sense that there's a court that has already pronounced itself on the matter. Now it's up to the SCA now to make a determination. So at this stage, you can't say Sandral's case is, sorry, OUTA's case is strong or weak, because already two courts have already pronounced itself in favor of government in this regard.
Yeah. So at this point, it's 2 rounds to government and none to OUTA.
So
all right.
far,
So Tiama, what you're telling me is buy your toll e-tags, because e-tolling is coming in a couple of weeks. That's what I'm reading. But now the Transport Minister is going to be our guest. That's going to happen after 6:30. So perhaps we'll get a little bit more in terms of timing when it does come through.
Correct.
But whichever way you look at it, it's coming.
It's coming. If you want to avoid any 6 months imprisonment and payment of fine, I think you just have to go and buy your e-tags and pay for the e-tolls.
Well, I better go and buy mine, because I still haven't bought mine. And that's being honest. I really am. Tiama, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure having you here on Morning Live. Chiamo Sedumedi, MD of MSN Attorneys, talking to us about e-tolling and the reality that they're coming, and you better get your tags, because they're not going anywhere right now until, of course, the end of a court case that perhaps might see OUTA winning, but at this point doesn't look like it.